ain't taking notes from nobody.
Jaylen Brown.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
Welcome into Celtics Postgame Live, everybody. I'm your host, Justin Lowe, alongside with me, my co-host, Ian Angelo, Seamus Sarlingo below us, a.k.a. Celtics Every Day. The Celtics defeat the Golden State Warriors at home on the parquet, 116-100 in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The series now shifts 2-1 Boston's way with Game 4 occurring on Friday back at the parquet at 9 o'clock. We'll start with you, Ian. We'll go down the line here. We'll talk to Seamus in a second. Let's get your initial thoughts on the game before we move and talk about some individual players or plays.
I'm not going to lie. This was probably the best team win the Celtics have had maybe this whole playoff run. I mean, every single person stepped up when they needed to. Jaylen Brown took over the first half. Tatum took over the second half. Marcus Smart was hitting shots. Al Horford was getting rebounds. Robert Williams looked the best that he's looked in like 2 months. And, I mean, this was just a complete win overall. And, there's not really, in my opinion, I don't know if there's one specific person you can say and that this was their game. I think everyone turned it on. And this was a super important win because I thought Game 3 was a must win coming back home. And, I mean, they did what they needed to do. They took their win at home.
Yeah, tonight's game for the Celtics was pretty much a perfect game all throughout outside of the third quarter. You saw them at each end of the quarter respond in every single way, whether it was defensively, in transition, or offensively, executing to create open shots and, of course, making those open shots as well. And each player that played in tonight's game for the Celtics, they made an impact on the game. And one of those players I want to highlight tonight, Robert Williams. I was in doubt of his health coming into Game 2. I made a couple of posts about it before the game, highlighting some of the plays in which in Game 2, you really looked at Rob and went, those are just plays that's either ending in a highlight lob, a highlight dunk, or a highlight block. And he just didn't have the lift under him. Yet tonight, super impactful out there tonight. A couple of highlight blocks from him, of course, tonight, and just a huge presence around the rim, both in rebounding, blocking shots, and, of course, just as a deterrent for the other team. So Robert Williams was huge in this game tonight. And, of course, the stars as well, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, they stepped up in the way they needed to tonight. And both of them, Ian kind of highlighted this for a second, though, both of them really stepped up tonight when they needed to. And ultimately, when both of these guys are on, the Celtics are tough to beat. It's usually one or the other. We see either Brown go off or we see Tatum go off. But when both guys go off, that's when the Celtics hit another level. And that happened tonight throughout this game. And there's so many other players that deserve praise from the Celtics, but those are really the standouts to me tonight in what was an exhilarating Celtics win at the Garden.
That's my fault. My mic was muted. This one I was saying how this game kind of feels like, the Celtics didn't let Golden State's egos get to them like they did in Game 2, right? Draymond was still talking. Even Steph and Clay had their moments and then were chirping as well as Poole. Boston didn't let that get to them whatsoever tonight. We're going to see Jaylen Brown. We're going to see Grant Williams kind of chirp back. I mean, that's basketball. That's a part of the game. But this time, the Celtics executed very, very well. Every time the Warriors threw punches at Boston was able to respond. There was an 8-point play. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was an 8-point play in the third quarter, and that brought the Warriors down to just 2 points. That play could have easily shifted the energy of the Celtics in the negative way. Instead, Boston was able to really build off of that and pull this win out. Going back to Jayson Tatum, he did hit some key shots down the stretch, but I want to talk about his playmaking, guys, because yet another night where he had almost double-digit assists. Tonight he finished with 9. That also falls on other players hitting shots, so it's really good to give guys like Pritchard, Derek White, Grant Williams credit for hitting shots, even Marcus Smart. But what have we seen, Ian, about Jayson Tatum maybe not scoring the ball at a high, efficient, effective level in the NBA Finals, but passing the ball, playmaking, making all the smart decisions, Ian? It's really helping the Celtics out here, and it's a big reason why we're up 2-1.
Definitely, and we've said this throughout the playoffs. His improvement as a passer has just made him almost, just lethal no matter what happens. He could be dropping 50, but he could also be getting double-digit assists, which is something that we needed Tatum to do, and he's taken the next step. And, games 1 and 2, he didn't do a whole lot coming, from scoring at least. I know he had like 20-something in game 2, but, it's his playmaking in game 1 that led him to the win. His 13 assists in game 1, 9 assists tonight, and he was getting his points. So when he's getting his points, he's making his shots, and he's able to facilitate. I mean, what are you going to do to stop him exactly?
There's nothing you can do.
Exactly. Literally the only thing that you can do is pray the guy that he passed it to misses, because there's nothing else you can do when Tatum plays like he did tonight. And honestly, I don't need him to drop 50 every game. I don't. I just want him to take over when he needs to, like he did tonight, and just be able to continue making the offense flow and being able to facilitate. And that's pretty much going to lead the Celtics to a win.
Tatum's performance in game 2 was so confusing, and even going back to game 1 as well. His performance was confusing, particularly in game 2, because of his unawareness against mismatches, right? Jayson Tatum in game 2, when he had someone like Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry switched onto him, he never attacked the mismatch, and he would often settle for a jump shot, or he would pass off. And it was every single time that happened, you just look back and went, why are you not taking advantage of that particular mismatch? And tonight, I thought he did a good job of attacking those mismatches and also taking the ball to the rim. He was not settling for jump shots in this game. He made a clear point of emphasis on going towards the rim, being aggressive, breaking down the Warriors' defense, and of course, like you guys mentioned, making that extra pass out to the perimeter, creating open shots for other guys. So Jayson Tatum in that regard tonight was fantastic. That was a great adjustment in his game, and it's an easy adjustment at that. We've seen him at his peak. He's at his peak when he's driving the lane aggressively, creating for others, and just wreaking havoc on a defense, not when he's going one-on-one in isolation in the early shot clock. That's just not going to get it done. That's the last resort. That is where Jayson Tatum and all these other stars, that's where they can be lethal at times late in the shot clock, one-on-one. However, if you're going on the offense possession on your first action and doing that's not going to be as efficient. And tonight, Jayson Tatum and the entire Celtics offense, much more movement, much more ball movement, much more involvement from everybody on the team. And that's ultimately why they scored 116 points tonight, because in game 2, they only came out with 88, and it really felt like they were forcing everything. It was very stagnant, a lot of isolation at times, just not enough ball movement. Yet tonight, you saw the ball popping around the perimeter, and the Celtics, they were scoring more efficiently because they were creating shots more efficiently for themselves, open shots at that. And that's what I thought made the entire difference tonight.
I also want to point out Jaylen Brown, because Jaylen Brown, one of these players who all season, even during the regular season, not just this postseason alone, has been one of the best first half or first quarter scorers in the league statistically. That was a full showcase in game 2. He had a great start and then finished the game. I believe it was 1 of 12, 1 of 11, something along the lines of that. Kind of opposite game tonight. He shot 9 of 16. I'm reading off some stats in case you guys are wondering why I'm looking down. 27, 9, 5, a block. In my opinion, there were some plays defensively that didn't show up on the stat sheet for Jaylen Brown. There was this huge intensifying block on, I believe it was Klay Thompson down the stretch. That felt like an energy shifter as well. Kind of one of those relaxation points where it's like, take a deep breath. I think we got this game. I think that, that might have been one of the nails in the coffin there. But in my opinion, maybe it's just because it's on a bigger stage, so we might notice it a little bit more. But one of Jaylen Brown's better all-around games I've seen from him. Seemed really controlled. How many turnovers did he have tonight? He only had 2 turnovers. He wasn't so shaky with the ball. We've noticed throughout the playoffs where dribbling into the lane, dribbling into traffic has been a problem with him. Little butterfinger action. I don't know what's going on. But tonight that wasn't the case. Seamus, you mentioned about Jayson Tatum, how he's at his best when he just puts his head down, is aggressive, and he attacks the basketball, attacks the hoop. I think that's the case with Jaylen Brown as well. We've seen Jaylen Brown showcase that little step back jump shot, and it's been working for him. But I also think Jaylen Brown, one of the better basketball players in the entire league, not just guards, in transition. So when he's off to the races, when he's driving to the basket, he's highly, highly efficient. And we saw that tonight. He didn't care. He did not care at all. I mean, Jaylen Brown deserves a lot of flowers for this game. But like you said earlier, Ian, it's hard to kind of pick out what Celtic was the hero tonight, because it felt like everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do in terms of coming in. They knew what was on the line. As you mentioned, Ian, game 3s are arguably one of the biggest games in the series, especially if it's tied 1-1. What was your thought? We'll keep it on Jaylen Brown because we talked a little about Tatum, the fire. We got to talk about the ice and Jaylen Brown. What was your thoughts on Brown's game tonight?
Honestly, when Jaylen Brown came out in the first quarter, I was like, it was just shocking. Like,
I think he had 17.
I know he played well in the first quarter last game, but right. I don't think I expected it. And then he had 17 in the first quarter, and he was insane in the first quarter. And the thing was, the difference that Jaylen Brown has made, first, he's not turning the ball over as much as he was in the first series. As much as he was in the Heat series. Jaylen Brown had 2 turnovers tonight. That's pretty okay. I'm all right with that. And every single time Draymond Green was on him, he would attack him. He did not care who was in his way. He didn't care if Draymond was there. He didn't care if it was Steph. He didn't care if it was Clay. He was just running, and he was attacking everybody. And he was playing amazing on the offensive end. And like you said, Justin, I think his defense was a little underrated in this game. He was clamps, man. He was clamps for any time that I was watching him. He was clamps. And so I think we have to give Jaylen Brown his flowers in this game. Obviously, he wasn't the scoring punch at the end of the game, but in the beginning of the game, the Celtics probably wouldn't have had the lead that they had if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown was fantastic tonight, and you guys highlighted it early on, but him not having a ton of turnovers tonight made the difference, because sometimes he does have these type of games where he starts out hot. Really, sometimes he won't finish the game too hot, but other times he'll, wane away in certain periods of the game and then come back into the game late. But tonight, he was consistent throughout, I felt, and also just the lack of turnovers from him, that was what made the difference in his performance. We've seen these performances where Jaylen Brown, he just can't take care of the ball at times when he's attacking the defense, and often it's just a huge detriment to the Celtics offense. We talk about turnovers so often where, if you're turning the ball over, you're not only taking away possessions for yourself, but you're giving them to the other team as well. And so for Jaylen Brown not to turn over the ball at all really tonight, only 2 turnovers, that's pretty good for the amount of usage that he had tonight. And for him to attack and convert efficiently as he did tonight, that is the prime Jaylen Brown performance we want to see. And he set the tone for this game early. Once he came out attacking, this series, or I shouldn't say the series, but this game really flipped on its head towards the Celtics because they got the crowd behind them. They took an early lead, and really they just needed to sustain that lead throughout the game. Of course, they gave it up for a moment in the third quarter, rebounded from there, and then after that did pretty much the same thing again in sustaining that lead. So Jaylen Brown was both huge throughout the game, but also setting the tone for this game tonight. And we all know, I believe he was the leading scorer on the Celtics at the end of the night. So, I mean, quite the performance from Jaylen Brown, especially after his first 2 games in San Francisco.
I want to talk about Klay Thompson really quick. I know, this is a Celtics postgame show, not really a Warriors postgame show, but he got it going. Something I do want to talk about is it's very adjustable, but I noticed the Celtics defense a lot of the times, especially with Klay Thompson. I think that's why Klay got so hot tonight behind the arc. Boston was going, I don't know if they were going under the screen or the person who was supposed to switch was sagging off a little bit too much. In this case, it was a specific play. Robert Williams, Udoka got really, really, really infuriated on that play. What is it kind of just exactly what I said? Like the Celtics just need to maybe pick it up on defense. They gotta go over the screen. I mean, we see a lot of going under the screen or fighting through the screen, but the second defender isn't there to help or he's not up enough. What do we think kind of the Celtics should do in order to prevent that? Because I mean, double teaming Steph, double teaming Klay, you can't really do that because that leaves, guess what? That leaves one extra guy open who can easily hit an open shot. How does Boston adjust going into Game 4, where this isn't going to be this isn't going to be easy because I don't think Golden State's lost back-to-back games in the postseason either. So we'll start with you, Ian.
Honestly, I mean, I think one thing I noticed was that it feels like the Celtics have a hard time getting around screens. Yeah. Like if someone sets a hard screen, and I noticed this in the Miami series, anytime Bam would set a screen, the Celtics just could not get by him. And that's what it kind of felt like in this game. Anytime Kevon Looney set one or Draymond set one or anybody set a screen, the Celtics would just kind of stop. Like the defense would just stop, I remember there was a play, well, it was the double screen with Otto Porter and Steph, or it was Looney and Steph, one of the two, where Derek White was, he got past the first screen, and then they set another screen, and Al Horford was, he was almost at the mid-range at that point, and right. Steph was wide open for a three, and he hit it. So it's just kind of one of those things where I don't really know what you do to prevent it, because unless you step up and play all of your bigs at the three-point line, like at the start of the possession, that's the only thing that I can think of at the moment, because, I mean, you don't want to be too, up right. and leave the basket wide open, but at the same time, if Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are going to keep making their shots the way that they're making them,
right?
I don't know.
It's tough.
I don't know what you do. Because then you're kind of screwed in the rebounding department because everyone's on the perimeter and the Golden State could have one person down there and they can get the rebound. So it's an interesting dilemma that they're kind of faced with right now. But I mean, for as much as they didn't, have a great defending performance on Steph and Klay at times, they still were able to take it out. Yeah. And, they were able to defend everybody else, which was pretty solid for what the Celtics needed to do. So, right. Obviously we can't, bank on them missing shots all of the time, but if you can, continue doing what you're doing, but also try to fight around the screens a little bit harder. I feel like that's the best thing for the Celtics right now.
Yeah, I think, number one, navigating screens, of course, that's going to be at the top of the priority list, but what the Celtics are doing right now, some of these Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shots that went in tonight, they are just tough shots that they hit with defenders on them. I mean, think of that Al Horford shot. Al Horford was right up in Steph Curry's grill, and he just knocks that down like no one's in front of him. And ultimately, I think the game plan they're using right now, they're just betting that if they keep taking those shots and we being the Celtics, of course, keep contesting them as much as we can at the top of the key, we're going to live with that because we don't want them to break down our defense in the paint. The Celtics right now, the reason they're playing drop coverage is to take away the paint, because ultimately if the Warriors get inside the paint, that breaks down the Celtics defense. Of course, it forces a help defender to come over inside the paint, whether it's Kevon Looney rolling to the paint or Steph Curry getting past our big guy, whether it's Grant, Al, Robert Williams, whoever's out on the perimeter playing up on Curry. But if they get past them and get to the paint, that forces a help defender over. All of a sudden, you have a wide open guy out on the perimeter, swing the ball to him. Another guy comes to help on him, swing the ball again. All of a sudden, you have a wide open three or a choice of a good three or a great three. And that's ultimately what the Celtics are taking away, is that extra pass from the paint if the Warriors can get inside the paint. And ultimately, they're just betting on, hey, if you guys keep shooting with Steph and, of course, Klay Thompson, too, he's been getting a couple shots from the wing. If you guys keep shooting from this position and we are contesting off of screens, we bet that that is going to be a better option for us than you getting inside the paint, making the kick out pass, then making the extra swing pass, and of course hitting that shot. So what the Celtics are doing right now, yes, it's debatable on whether or not they should do it. However, some of these shots that Steph and Klay are hitting, even Jordan Poole in game 2, they're just shots you have to tip your cap to and go, those are just tough shots. We contested them well, and ultimately they went in, but we're betting that throughout the series, that's going to be a better formula towards winning than playing up and giving away the paint.
I was really intrigued by Boston's physicality tonight. 15-6 was the advantage on the offensive glass tonight. Usually we're the ones getting destroyed on the offensive glass. Boston has been great at response games in this postseason. They haven't lost back-to-back games. But guess what? I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, Golden State hasn't either. So this would be a real interesting game 4. You have home court advantage, a great chance to go up 3-1. You gotta win, but I mean, I don't know how to look at game 5 or game 4 rather. I don't even want to think about game 5. I don't know how to look about game 4. I really don't. I kind of had a feeling game 2, Golden State was going to win. Like if I was a betting man, I wouldn't want to bet against the Celtics, but honestly, I don't know. I just had a really sour feeling about that game. This game, I kind of felt Boston, come home, first finals game in over 10 years, however many years it is. And then on top of that, Boston hasn't lost back-to-back games. They did what they needed to do, but this game is going to be interesting. I'll be really intrigued to see what happens in game 4.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, as good as the Celtics have been responding to losses, I feel like they just suck at responding to wins. When was the last time they won back-to-back games?
Was
it the Bucks series 6 and 7? Was that the last time they won back-to-back games?
I think that's exactly when.
I mean,
wait, 4. Did
4
we win games? No, 4 and 5 in the Heat series. Yeah, 4 and 5 in the Heat series.
4 and 5
but
in the
still,
Heat series.
But still,
Still, I don't know what they have to do to motivate them to try to win a game after winning a game. I don't think I've ever seen a team have a problem with responding to a win. I don't think I've ever seen that before. But, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I agree with you, Justin. I think everyone felt kind of a weird way after game 1 that we all kind of thought they were going to lose game 2.
Right.
But I'm not going to lie to you. I don't feel that way after tonight. Now, we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. But, I mean, if the Celtics can just not, I was watching ESPN earlier today, and they had an interesting stat. It was something where if the Celtics turn the ball over less than 16 times, they're undefeated in these playoffs. And they haven't won a game when they turn the ball over more than 16 times, which you would think, obviously. You would think, obviously, that makes sense. But at the same time, the Celtics only had 12 turnovers today, and
not many.
If they can continue to play the way that they played tonight, I think Game 4 is a must-win too. I'm not gonna lie, because I don't feel comfortable going back to Golden State tied, and then having to win Game 6 at home, and then potentially having to play Game 7 in Golden State again. I would much rather them win tonight. Maybe if they can win Game 5, that'd be crazy. But, have a better chance at winning Game 6 at home. I think you have to win Game 4. I think you have to go up 3-1 and just – I don't know what you have to do, but I think you just have to win Game 4. I think it's a must-win.
Yeah, Game 3, great experience from the Celtics. Almost the perfect game from the team, but we've seen this story many times before where they put together this type of performance and then follow it up with a lot of turnovers, a lot of missed shots, a lot of missed opportunities, and then all of a sudden a series is tied or the Celtics go down in a series right after they tie up a series. And ultimately in game 4, if they play the way they did tonight and they limit their turnovers, execute offensively, and of course get after it on the defensive end of the floor, especially early like they did tonight, that will put them in a position to win the game. However, if they turn the ball over, if they let the refs dictate their emotions out on the floor, if they let Draymond get under their skin in what is essentially a must-win game for the Warriors now, if they let all that happen in game 4, all while going back to their offense in which we saw in game 2, where it's more stagnation instead of movement, that's going to put them in a hole. And ultimately, this team that we're in the NBA Finals, we're 2 wins away from an NBA championship this year. However, throughout rounds 2 and rounds 3, we saw it, and you guys mentioned it. This team just does not respond to good performances well. And ultimately in game 4, they have another chance to do that on their home floor at the TD Garden. But up to this point, we've yet to see it consistently. So somehow, some way, 2 wins away from the title, and we're still wanting to see certain things from the Boston Celtics. But like I said, they have an opportunity to right that ship in game 4.
I do feel like that's always going to be the case. Like we always want a little more than what we have. But
yeah, well, because you never want to be satisfied. You can always find the problems. It's easy to find the problems in a game rather than the successes.
Totally.
You can dwell on the problems, even if the Celtics blew out the Warriors tonight. There's still would have been the same expectation that they would have to go into game 4 and get the job done.
Correct.
We haven't seen it.
I just, before we, kind of click off the show here, because we're going to be wrapping up soon, I don't even want to bring this to my own attention or like anybody's attention, but the Golden State Warriors are just hypocrites. Like hypocrites. Oh, you broke the code, Boston's crowd. Oh, they're very, very classy and all that. Like, first of all, the stuff, they were talking about the FU Draymond chants that were in the Boston Garden.
Oh my God, Giannis was able to take care of it.
But I understand that. But you think the things Draymond Green is saying to the Celtics players, to the Celtics fans, I'm sure he's chirping, even sometimes to his own teammates, the officials. You think all of that is that appropriate? Is better than FU Draymond chants? No, absolutely the hell not. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it at all about that. There's plays that. I'm not going to complain about the officiating. We won the ball game. I didn't even like complaining about the officiating. I admire about Draymond Green, his competitive, his grittiness. I admire his flopping. I admire his aggressive play. But at the same time, like, you got to realize, like, you get away with a lot of BS. Like, a lot of BS. There's a play. It's like trending right now on like Instagram Reels or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. I saw it like 3 times in a row, where I think Brown at the end of the game was at the free throw line before like the violation. And he hooked Tatum. There was a thing where he hooked Tatum around the neck and they didn't even call that. Like, it's the little things. And I wonder if like the officials go back and look at that and it's like, oh yeah, I missed that. Or like, oh yeah, I missed that on purpose or something like that. I wish I didn't have to bring that to the attention, but it's a little bit kind of frustrating to see how hypocritical the Golden State Warriors are. And we're competing with the Warriors, so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a Warriors fan, but over the years, I can say that I enjoyed watching the Golden State Warriors, but I guess it might just be the animosity of the series of the moment.
Yeah, honestly, it's going to be one of those things. You've heard the cliche, but it's true. Draymond Green is a player that you would love to have on your team, and you're going to defend till you die, but you hate to play against him.
Right.
And, we're all, East Coast NBA fans, so we don't get to see the Warriors play that often. So, and I mean, me personally, I don't get to see many Western Conference teams' reactions to the Golden State Warriors play, but I have a feeling they've been kind of saying the same things that we've been saying in this series, just, at a moderately smaller stage. And I don't have a problem with Draymond. I like his competitiveness. It makes the series fun to watch. Every series needs a villain. But you can't in my opinion, I don't think you can go on your podcast and say, Derek White's not going to do this. Al Horford's not going to do this. Marcus Smart's not going to do this. I don't think you can do that and then be mad when Celtics fans chant "F you, Draymond," or I just don't think that you can do that really. But I mean, what do I know? I'm just a guy behind a screen. So, I mean, in my opinion. Also, I mean, you saw in the series. I went to the Bucks series. They were saying "F you, Grayson Allen" for no reason. Grayson Allen did nothing the entire series.
I know.
And they were still saying "F you, Grayson," and they were saying "F you, Giannis," even though Giannis was torching them the entire series. I mean,
I was just going to bring up that.
It just comes with the territory when you play in Boston, and that's just what it is at this point.
I was going to bring up the Grayson Allen, like that poor, like I know he's a dirty player and all that, like oh no,
but he did nothing.
Like, he didn't do anything. Like he
It's
got booed
the
before he even got
2019
off the
Summer
bench.
League with Grant.
Him
That's
and
right.
Tatum.
Yeah.
Him and Tatum are still probably like friends because they both went to Duke and they were both
Yeah.
like, I'm assuming they were both there at the same time. But like
That was funny. That was funny. Just random FU Grayson chants as he's
like for
sitting
no
on the bench.
reason. For no reason.
Seamus, go ahead. What's your take on this?
But for real, Draymond Green, he's going to play this way. He's been in the league for, I believe this is his 11th season. He's been, I believe 2011 was his draft class. And he's been doing this pretty much every single season of his career. And he's made the finals 6 times. And in each and every single final game he's played, he's done this. He's done some sort of version of this type of performance where he is just messing with guys the whole game, getting away with just the most egregious, calls sometimes. And ultimately, that's just what you expect going up against Draymond Green. I think Ian said it best. He's a player that if he's on your team, if you're a Warriors fan, you're defending until you die. But if you are not, if you are facing him, you are not a fan of Draymond Green. And right now, I respect Draymond Green and his career and what he's done to get to this point in his career. However, right now, going against him, super annoying. But I will say, he's a content machine. He's a content machine. And he's ultimately what makes, Ian mentioned it too, he's ultimately what makes this all very, very, very entertaining. And at the end of the day, Draymond Green, I love him as a player. It's annoying to go up against him, but just it is what it is. And it's just going to continue for the rest of the series.
Well, we'll be back here when? Friday night? Is it Friday? 9 p.m. tip-off on ABC. We'll have you cover 4 Celtics Postgame Live. We will be on right around this time, 12:30. Isn't it funny? We're playing in the East Coast, and we're doing a postgame show at nearly 1 in the morning.
Don't even get me started. I've been pissed the entire time. Like
we're here. Okay. We're here. We're 2 wins away.
One more small tangent. I don't care if a West Coast game has to start at 5 o'clock at night. I do not want to stay up until midnight watching an NBA game, even if I had something to do the next day. Like, I mean, I love the Celtics. I'm going to watch them regardless. But why are East Coast games starting at 9 o'clock? Hey. And we had one game that started at 8 o'clock, but it was on the West Coast for no reason. I don't get it.
Oh, yeah, that hour difference really changed.
Anyway, get back to the closing.
I'm built different. I would rather them just start games at like 3 a.m. I think would be awesome.
Seamus is a Nighthawk.
I love the late start games. I love them. They're great.
Do you guys ever know, like, when you like randomly like wake up in like the middle of the night, it'd be like 3 or 4 in the morning, you call on your phone for like 2 minutes, just check. I always wake up, if I wake up in the middle of the night and like at 3, 4 in the morning, and I'll just go on Instagram really quick, just see what's up. I'll see Seamus 5 minutes ago just posting like stuff. I'm like, bro, what?
Posts all night.
Straight up dedication. I love it.
Well, that's what it takes. All nighters.
I know.
Hey, look.
Also, before we close out, we have to congratulate Justin Lowe and Celtics Rising for hitting 20K on Instagram.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was dope. That was a sick moment.
Clap it up.
I appreciate that.
Justin.
I appreciate that. That was unnecessary, but I really appreciate that. That's sick. That's 6 years since I've been covering. Seamus and I started right around the same time, so it's kind of been cool to see how each other have, grown on social media. And now we're working together, so that's pretty cool. But we'll be working together, all three of us, again on Friday night, right around the same time, right around midnight. I don't want to, throw out an exact time, but right around midnight, just like tonight, for Celtics Postgame Live. But for now, I'm Justin Lowe. That's Ian Angelo. That's Seamus Sterling. Okay, Celtics every day. We will see you Friday night. Hopefully, we're talking about a 3-1 lead in our advantage. But until then,